WWE is going into summer with a bunch of big-time feuds and storylines, and we're here to predict the end to every single one of them. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about some wrestling.
This one's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to be wrong on all of these, but it's going to be fun to do. The fantasy booking minds that we love to have, and I'm sure you guys do as well, likes to just run a little wild with this one.
Yeah, we're not going to do King and Queen of the Ring because obviously that's coming up next week and we'll have our full predictions on that as well. But we're going to go through all the big time storylines. And let's start with the unfortunate ones that are going to have to come based off of what happened on Monday Night Raw, because Liv Morgan, she was involved in just a bunch of stuff. She started the night by calling out Io Sky for a world title match. She's been involved in the Judgment Day, Dom, Roxanne, will they, won't they thing going on, or whatever the hell that is right now, and the Nikki Bella stuff. So the story here is just, where does WWE pivot now that Liv Morgan's hurt with all these storylines that she was in?
Yeah. First of all, obviously a terrible thing that she gets hurt.
Yeah.
But also, realistically, I mean, the Judgment Day and the Nikki Bella stuff, that was like, okay, you're like, okay, I can see something there. And then the night she calls out Io, you're like, oh, well, that's just terrible timing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think, where do they go from here? I think you have an easy pencil in with Io. I think you could go Stephanie Vacque in there. I think you could throw her in for, let's say, like an Evolution match, something simple like that. I think they've kind of built the stock up with her that you could see that. I mean, people want to see that, right? And with her losing on Raw in the Queen of the Ring match, that's kind of a perfect kind of replacement, right? You could just throw her in, have a phenomenal match. In terms of the tag title stuff, I think you look at it, I think there's been rumors about them vacating the titles. Well, that would lead to everybody's favorite tournament. Everybody loves a good tournament, but there's no real teams. So you can't really have a tournament with no teams. So I think you just have Roxanne just pencil in and slide in, kind of like what we did with Naomi, Jade, and Bianca. Have her and Raquel defend those tag titles. I think you have them defend, even if you want to go a one-on-one match and have Roxanne just kind of sub in and face Nikki Bella. Like, I'm okay with that as well. I think that's kind of the most fluid transition for the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, I think that the easy answer here is Roxanne Perez, just kind of for all of it. I know Roxanne is currently in the Queen of the Ring tournament, but you could have her just like lose and get into a backstage fight with Io real quick, just to kind of put a Band-Aid on the situation there. You can also have Roxanne slide into the tag team championship role with Raquel, and then they're kind of open to drop that whenever they want to, whomever they want to do it to, whether that be the Bella Twins or this new Dungeon Daisies or whatever they're called. Dungeon Dolls or whatever they're called with Natalia and Maxine Dupree, stuff like that. And then when it comes to the Nikki Bella stuff, literally the same thing. If you were going to do a one-on-one match, just throw Roxanne in there. Just have the story be the last time that we really saw Roxanne and Liv come in contact. Roxanne was trying to help Liv Morgan in that match. Like, she was trying to do her part. So you don't have a ton of complication between those two at the moment to where, like, Roxanne actually wanting to take over Liv's role wouldn't make sense. So I think that the Band-Aid should just be named Roxanne Perez for the time being, and you kind of make do with all of it.
Yeah, and I think eventually you have them lose the tag titles to, like, the Bellas, right? I think that would be storyline, the best thing. She did say, let the best woman win, and I think maybe we were kind of getting at Roxanne being like, well, maybe I am the better woman. I think we were going to kind of get that down the line. So maybe they do just decide to run with that, and maybe that does cause friction where Roxanne thinks, hey, I am better than you, and while she's out, she can kind of take over, and she can establish herself as that workhorse that Liv kind of loves to be.
And she can absolutely do it. So it'd be great to see. We're going to stick to Judgment Day storyline, though. Other part of the Judgment Day story, Finn and Dom. We don't know what's going on with them. Finn seems to be working under the table. Dom and Finn have kind of been rubbing heads lately. On Monday night, Finn did to seemingly save Dom Mysterio from AJ Styles. But how do we foresee this ending coming out for Finn and Dom down the line?
Yeah, I think you kind of delay it a little bit. Obviously, the rumors are now 3 to maybe 6 months, right? Nobody has a timetable on the Liv stuff. And that was kind of the whole thing. So I think you end up delaying it a little bit. And I think you have everybody really start to like Roxanne. I think that's the way they maybe shift with it, right? I think Finn's like, hey, we'll give her another chance here. Roxanne continues to just be Roxanne, and everybody kind of warms up to her. And I think maybe that's the route that we go. And then at the end, I think we don't get anything maybe until whenever Liv's cleared, like right before then we get Finn kind of stabbing Dom in the back, costing Dom. And then at the end of the day, Dom looks out like he's on the outside looking in, right? And he's all by himself. And then that's when Liv returns. So I think that would be kind of a fun way to do it. I think if you have everybody like Roxanne, even Raquel being like, oh, she's not that bad. I really don't mind her. And everybody likes her. And then she just stabs everybody in the back.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this because you do have the Liv stuff, which obviously like Raquel and Roxanne are a part of this Judgment Day thing. We think that Finn and Rox are the ones scheming under the scenes. To me, I'm the opposite of you, though. I kind of just want them to pull the trigger on Finn Balor. Like, just pull it, say screw it. Finn was planning this whole thing, and just even work in the Liv injury. Just be like, oh, this makes it even easier now. Now Dom's just a sitting duck. I'm going to go for him right here and right now. And then we can go into SummerSlam with this feud that's been seemingly building for like, it feels like an entire year almost at this point. We were all theorizing how it was going to go down. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to just kind of finally cement the Judgment Day stuff, have Dom and Finn, have a good feud, go into SummerSlam, finish it off there, and we can have Dom walk away with a big-time championship win, hopefully over AJ Styles and Finn Balor at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely could see. I think some people are ready for it to win.
Yeah.
I think this also, though, kind of throws a fork in the road, a wrench in the plans, and you're like, well, we'll still do the same plan, but we'll just push it down even farther. I think we might end up getting that. But on Monday, let's say if they come out and we get the betrayal, am I going to be complaining? No.
I mean, it makes sense. Dom's a sitting duck right now. Kind of Raquel's even kind of giving them glances of like, what the hell? I mean, Liv didn't show any empathy on Monday, right? So it just feels like now he really is a good target, and Finn can really just decide to say, screw it. Okay, it opened up. Here's a target. Let's get it. So let's see it, though. Becky Lynch, Bayley, Lyra Valkyria. Bayley and Becky cut a nice promo at each other this week. And then afterward, Bayley and Lyra met in the back, and Lyra was like, basically, bro, why didn't you contact me over the past few months? And Bayley said she was kind of just doing what the best for her was. So how do we foresee this storyline finishing out down the line?
Yeah, I think we probably, as different as we were probably on the last one, I think this one we're probably somewhat similar. So we have Monday Night Raw. We have Becky versus Bayley for the IC title. I think you have some sort of Lyra comes out to watch and she ends up costing Bayley, and you get like a sneaky roll up, something like that. A good old fashioned roll up, as everybody loves. And then you kind of just delay that. I think maybe, I know we kind of pinpointed Evolution as maybe the triple threat spot. That might be what we decide to do here. I'm okay with that. And then I think at the end of the day, you have Bayley take the title off and head kind of into SummerSlam, would be how I would do that.
Yeah, I kind of booked it all the way through. So I do foresee the title match with Bayley and Becky having a Lyra interference of some sort. And then you get like all three of them are now like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Let's get after it. You go the Evolution route. And I think you do have probably Bayley win that. Becky Lynch has stated that she kind of wants to do big things away from title belts. She wants to have big non-title stories. So at that point, you can kind of push her away. She's doing fantastic work. She'll make anything float at the moment. And then you can go into SummerSlam with Lyra versus Bayley and kind of do the one-on-one, we were once friends, now we're not thing. And then I do think you have Lyra Valkyria come out on top here. And then she's the new IC champion once again with wins under her belt with Becky Lynch and Bayley. And she looks fantastic at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have Bayley do that. I think we do have that same kind of feud heading into SummerSlam sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they play that. Obviously, the landscape is probably going to shift at that point. Do they need a kind of over-the-top babyface like a Bayley, or do they need more of an edgier babyface at that point like Lyra? So we'll see kind of what happens. I think at this point, though, you do kind of have to pinpoint that Becky Lynch is going to be the one, her and obviously Rhea Ripley, are going to be the ones that kind of help elevate. They're going to kind of step up into the main event scene again, rightfully so.
Yep.
Kind of a emergency break glass sort of thing. Becky Lynch is always perfect at doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And she's not going to miss a beat.
No, she's awesome. She can literally, at this point, she can do whatever she wants. Heel Becky's best heel on the roster at the moment, I think. Let's move on, though. This one should be quick. Goldberg, he showed back up on Monday. He's got a match against Gunther for the title. Yeah, it's stupid. And logic doesn't make any sense. He walks back through the door, gets a title match. Just whatever. We'll gloss over it. What do we foresee this story ending like? Is it as simple as we get the Saturday Night Main Event, Goldberg gets a couple spear, jackhammer, and then Gunther decides to kill this man in front of his family, and then we walk away with a great heel Gunther champion still?
Yeah, so for everybody that says it's dumb that Goldberg has a title shot, I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you. I would bet money that it's in the contract. Hey, I need a title shot.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I would guarantee that. So that's kind of why they're doing it. Yeah, I have this one down as Goldberg comes out. He gets the huge pop. You get a spear or two. Maybe you get a jackhammer. I put a question mark with a jackhammer because admittedly, I don't know if he can do that anymore. I really don't know.
Yeah.
So I have that. And then I have Gunther just making Goldberg end up passing out in the final match. And that's kind of how the way they do that.
Yeah. Do you think he passes out, or do you think you have Goldberg tap out? Kind of go out
Just
on
pass out.
It'd be a Goldberg way to just not take a pin, not take a tap, just do the losing by standing tall method of just passing out instead.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I think that's something like that. I've heard rumors that maybe it's a way to help get his kid in the door, WWE. Maybe that is the case, but at this point, I think it's going to be a quick match. We've talked about it longer than I think the match is going to go. So I think it's going to be a quick one.
Yeah, 100%.
I think I did see it. Last 7 matches, I think it is. His longest match is 11 minutes.
I've got 3 minutes for you, Bill.
Yep.
I've got 3 minutes for you, Bill. LA Knight, he's been showing up on Raw and SmackDown and everywhere to cost Seth Rollins and his faction. Where are we going with this Seth Rollins, LA Knight faction feud here?
Yeah, this one has the most, I would say probably second most. This is the most like intriguing one in terms of like, there's a bunch of options basically, right? And they kind of threw that out on Monday night at the end of it with everybody kind of just emptying the locker room almost. So I have LA Knight just continue to kind of bounce back and forth, continue to be kind of outnumbered by the odds, and he needs a tag partner. I do have Jey Uso being that tag partner. So I have the Yeet Yeah team versus the Bronze, basically. And we kind of just run that for a little bit and see kind of how that goes. Ultimately, I think this was kind of a preview of the battle-ons will be drawn basically for War Games, like Seth's team on this side, Jay, LA Knight, Roman's team, whoever you really kind of want to say on this side. And I think that's kind of where we go with this is War Games.
I think that this is kind of leading to a Seth Rollins LA Knight SummerSlam match. I think we're going to give LA Knight a big time match at SummerSlam for once. And how I see it happening is LA Knight and Jey Uso do team up to beat up on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, maybe even hand them their first loss as a faction. And then that gives LA Knight the right to bump up to Seth Rollins. And it gives me the feeling of sort of like at WrestleMania 31, when Rollins did the cash in, he fought Randy Orton earlier in the night in sort of just a throwaway great match at WrestleMania, and then he cashed in later in the night. So I think that we're going to kind of have that feel going into SummerSlam of Seth Rollins versus LA Knight, give LA Knight a great match, but then we focus on will he, won't he cash in later on the night at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, you could even do it to where that match is one of the matches on the first night.
Yeah.
And then night 2.
Bingo.
Does he cash in?
I forget about that.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the way that you go. You have to have him on the card some way, somehow. That is a quick, easy, simple way. And then obviously you have the Gunther, Sammy, potentially, whoever that match is, right? How does that cash in go? And then further down the road, I think that's maybe the bigger question. Like, is that just a triple threat feud from that point? Does Rollins go against just Sammy? Where does Gunther go after this? You know, that raises big questions for me past SummerSlam for them.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it right now, though, because we're gonna talk about Money in the Bank. Mm-hmm. We got 2 people running around with contracts right now, brand new contracts, Naomi and Seth Rollins. Obviously, Rollins has been much more right in your face about it so far. He's kind of just impending doom all over Raw. And then, of course, Naomi's looking everywhere. Let's go one by one. Let's see how we would book it right now. How do you foresee Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank contract?
Yeah, I think he teases it at Saturday Night Main Event. I think that's a fun little pop. But then I do have him cashing in on Gunther, Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. I think that's just maybe the most storyline way, right? In terms of Sami wanting to be a champion, wanting to continue like to try and he just can't get there. He can't get the job done because he is that nice guy. So I do think you have Seth Rollins cash in at SummerSlam and keep Sami Zayn from really winning the title at that point. I think that's kind of the bigger story for me coming out of SummerSlam with that title.
Yeah, I think whoever wins King of the Ring and goes to SummerSlam to fight Gunther is going to get cashed in on no matter what. I think no matter what, we're going to have Seth Rollins cash in at SummerSlam, because it makes sense that that's just what we're gearing up for, right? The story of Raw right now is just going to eventually be post SummerSlam, Seth Rollins with the title, surrounded by this brand new faction, and we're going to have ourselves a mini bloodline story-esque thing going on again on Raw once again, which is going to be great because I absolutely love what Seth Rollins and them are doing. So what I do foresee is probably a Gunther Sammy fight. This might already be not possible after this weekend, but what I foresee is probably a Gunther Sammy fight at SummerSlam, and then Seth Rollins cashing in, maybe even after Sami Zayn touches gold for the first time and beats Gunther. But either way, Seth Rollins, SummerSlam cash in.
Yeah, and that's the biggest question for me coming out of it. Like, I think everybody has kind of pinpointed that the cash is going to happen. You got Rollins cashing in on Sammy either before or during the match, or during or after the match, I should say. But where does that leave Gunther?
Yeah.
That's kind of my biggest question, and maybe that's where you look at the draft, potentially rumored in SummerSlam coming up, and Gunther can go ahead and get drafted over to SmackDown, have a fresh start.
I love it. Top over to the other one, though. Mm-hmm. Naomi, she's due. It's time for her to become a champion. When is she going to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase?
Yeah, I got Evolution for this one. I have fantasy booked this in my mind for so long that it's going to happen, and I'm probably wrong, but I've got Naomi cashing in on Tiffany Stratton and whoever, I guess Nia Jax would be who she faces at Evolution, which is probably wrong. That's the cards probably come out. That's probably not that, but that's what we're going to run for this one. I have Naomi cashing in on Tiffany and the Nia match at Evolution, and then I have Naomi after that. She ends up, well, the winner's already predetermined, I guess, at that point. It's already decided, Jade Cargill being the Queen of the Ring. So you end up having Jade Cargill, Naomi, SummerSlam.
I originally thought that both Money in the Banks were going to be cashing at SummerSlam. It's the first 2-day SummerSlam weekend. How do we make it big? 2 big-time cash-ins. But that would sound dumb, in my opinion, and you talked me into it. I think that's exactly how we go with it. I think we get the cash-in at Evolution because I want the build to SummerSlam to be champion Naomi and Jade Cargill. That just sounds like the perfect icing on the cake to this feud that has been great. I want them to rekindle their fiery feud that they had before WrestleMania, but now there's a title on the line, and you give Jade the opportunity to win the big one at one of the biggest events of the year. That just sounds like the perfect time for Naomi to cash in my opinion.
Yeah, and then potentially, obviously, Bianca returning somewhere in that time frame, right? Boom. Who knows what happens with that, right?
Feed.
So that storyline is just the most exciting for me, and so it's kind of like, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but this sounds damn good to me.
We got two more big time stories that are happening in the WWE right now. We did skip over Julia and Zelina. If you want my opinions, Julia beats her before the next SmackDown even starts.
What about the New Day?
New Day? They're the Mr. Commercials. Their entire storyline happens during commercial breaks. What do you mean? Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa. Obviously, Jacob Fatu cost Solo the title or the Money in the Bank briefcase. Where do we see this story going? What is Jacob and Solo Sikoa going to end? Or how are they going to end?
Yeah, I think Solo adds a new member.
Yeah.
This Friday on SmackDown. I think that one's going to end up happening. And then you have kind of a 3-on-1, and you have Jacob Fatu kind of on his own. I think you have Tama Tonga and Tongaloa come back, and they side with Jacob. You get a little 3v3 stuff. Nothing super crazy, right? Nothing super long. And then at the end of the day, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do think Solo Sikoa just ends up getting that title from Jacob. Now you may say, well, Jacob Fatu is a star. Jacob Fatu deserves a long reign. Jacob Fatu is a star. That's why I think he can just drop the title and he can be fine and he can go on to do other things. Plus, selfishly, I want to see Solo with some type of gold. So give me Solo Sikoa, end up taking that off Jacob down the line. Not anytime soon, though.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I'm 99% with you, and I'll explain. I do think that Tama Tonga and Tongaloa come back. They go, what the hell, Solo? Why are you adding all these people? I'm going to go join Jacob Fatu, our boy, and then we're going to get the 3v3 action, and then we'll go into SummerSlam with Jacob Fatu taking on Solo Sikoa, and I'm with you. I absolutely love Solo, and I appreciate every little thing he does, especially when he taunts everybody. It's so much fun, but I don't think he wins. I think Jacob Fatu just stays champion here. I know Solo loses again. That sucks, but that's what Solo's good at. He's absolutely great at building storylines and then taking the pin at the end of it. So I have Jacob Fatu staying champion at the end of the storyline.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, you got a 50-50 shot, right? Either it's Jacob or it's Solo. Solo, one of these times, damn it, he's got to win something. So have Solo win it. I'm banging the table.
He was doing all this stuff. Oh, he's so good.
I'm banging the table. Solo needs some gold.
All Gas, No Brains deserves a T-shirt in its own right. I don't know how we haven't gotten that
Or
yet.
the I got tickets. We still never got a
I got tickets, everything.
He could say I got gold. He could say that.
John Cena, he's been going after CM Punk with that pesky R-Truth. Ron Killing's been beating him up every single week. He's got a fight on SmackDown this Friday. Where do we foresee all this Cena Punk killing stuff ending?
Yeah, so I think CM Punk ends up costing John Cena this Friday, and Ron Killings gets the win here. I think an aggravated Cena basically destroys CM Punk at Night of Champions. He basically does everything in his power to make sure CM Punk doesn't walk out of there. Basically, I think Cena goes heelish. Obviously, it's going to be a good match, but he needs to take that anger out that he gets from that, and then ultimately. Maybe this is where I had the biggest question mark. Like, do you just run R-Truth and John Cena at SummerSlam? Because he gets a non-title win over John on SmackDown. And if he faces Punk at Night of Champions, you don't want to just run that back again, right? Plus, on the side, you have Cody and Randy fighting each other, basically, in my mind, of who's going to dethrone Cena. Well, R-Truth can just kind of slither in there and just take that title shot. So I do think John Cena, R-Truth, SummerSlam.
Yeah, I foresee R-Truth getting the win on Friday over John Cena one way or another, and that pop is going to be legendary, and you're just putting more rocket fuel and the rocket boots on R-Truth, which is perfect. And then I see John Cena getting the win over CM Punk, probably in a crappy, I hit you with the title way. He may even leave the arena just like Punk did at Money in the Bank years and years and years ago. I think that'd be a nice touch. I don't see R-Truth getting a SummerSlam match only because I feel like every PLE has been planned by WWE for a year now, right? I think they're on a set path to the Cena farewell tour. But if R-Truth does end up getting the win Friday, that makes things interesting. You would think that Cena wouldn't just allow his farewell tour to have a tie 1-1 with R-Truth. So it'd be interesting to see. I would be open for a SummerSlam match. That sounds great, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have him facing R-Truth at SummerSlam, who do you have him facing at SummerSlam?
I mean, we act as though you and I make a lot of predictions, especially here, as though Sammy has already won the King of the Ring. But Cody Rhodes is in that freaking tournament still, and he's Cody Rhodes. It's the first SummerSlam that's 2 nights, so Cody Rhodes, John Cena sounds like the easiest booking at the moment, the rematch. So that's probably where you're going with it.
Yeah, my whole thing is I think the Randy Cody promo about who's going to dethrone.
Yeah.
I really think that's a big thing. And maybe I'm completely out of it. And maybe you have Randy versus Cody in the final, and that's how you do that. So maybe this takes care of itself. But if that's not the case, I think you have Randy and Cody kind of go after each other to see who can kind of be the number one contender basically at that point, after Truth obviously loses at SummerSlam. And then ultimately the winner of that is the one that dethrones Cena down the road. Because I think you get the dethroning obviously further down the road.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm a little scared that there are, I mean, I guess we can kind of just add one more story on this because we're kind of talking about how Cena, where he loses the title or any of that stuff. But I'm a little worried. You and I are under the impression, or we really want to see that Cena goes heel the entire time. In his final match, the clock strikes 0, who can save wrestling, and that's when he drops it. That sounds awesome to us. But I do think there is a high probability and high chance of John Cena, Cody Rhodes just taking place at SummerSlam, and we do it right there. And then we do end up getting a solid 5 months of face John Cena back where we're celebrating him, and it becomes more of a, lovey-feely farewell tour, especially with the way the IWC has been complaining about the heel John Cena thing. So it would not surprise me, even if Cody Rhodes doesn't win the King of the Ring tournament, we do get Sammy. It wouldn't surprise me if, because of all the shit talk Cody's been talking, if John Cena pops up at King of the Ring and screws the man out of the match, and then you have Sammy going on to SummerSlam to fight Gunther, and then by the laws of you got screwed, Cody still ends up with a title match against John Cena at SummerSlam, and we do it that way. So, yeah, not necessarily what I want to see, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. Part of me, though, would also be like, I feel like a lot of fans, and maybe you are right, that maybe they dislike the Cena heel turn so much that they wouldn't care, but I think a lot of people at the same time would be like, oh, so we just had Cody lose at WrestleMania just for him to win at SummerSlam. That sort of, you'd also get that pushback as well. So the biggest thing for me in terms of talking about the Cena, Punk, Truth, Randy, Cody, all of those people, right? I love a it's a wild, wild west. Every person for themselves. Who's the one that takes the title off John Cena? But like, they've almost backed themselves into a spot where they're like, what do we do? You know?
I personally kind of want to see CM Punk get screwed at Night of Champions. And I kind of want to see CM Punk be the one to save wrestling way down the line, because I really want to see CM Punk get the championship, right? Ever since he came back, who's he going to beat for the championship? Who's he going to beat for the championship? We thought even as soon as like year one, he was going to fight like Cody Rhodes and win the championship at WrestleMania or something like that. And since then, it's been like, well, he's going to rip the title off of probably Seth Rollins at some point, and Seth Rollins at some point, and Seth Rollins at some point. But like, to me, we've seen so much interaction between CM Punk and Seth that a little bit of me is kind of like over the idea of doing that whole program again so soon for a title, that like you screw Punk here and then it follows up down the line and we get like another proper John Cena CM Punk and CM Punk saves the day. I don't know. I feel like that would be a nice bow tie on it that most people probably don't see.
Yeah, I think that is important because it does feel like Night of Champions. While it is like we do get it and I'm excited and happy and thankful we get it, it is also like a Night of Champions was where we get that, you know? So I do see that as well. Personally, for me, down the road, since we were just rambling and talking about it, I think you have Cody end up taking it off Cena. And we did have Cody and Punk say eventually we got to cross paths at some point. Yeah. I think Punk and Cody is kind of almost inevitable at that point. But that's way down the road, obviously.
That could be your Mania main event. Mm-hmm. Easy.
Yep. And then on the other side, you got Rollins and maybe a Roman or something, you know?
It's going to suck when Goldberg has a title through all this, huh?
Yeah, Goldberg at WrestleMania, Las Vegas Part 2.
But let's do it. Anyway, that's us rambling and getting through a bunch of the major storylines in WWE to see how we would book it, how we would end those storylines. Let us know in the comments how you guys would end all these storylines, because at the end of the day, it's just fantasy booking. It doesn't matter anyways. It's just for fun. And then, of course, come to our live streams for Raw, SmackDown, and PLEs, youtube.com/COD Brandon will be holding it down this week on SmackDown because I'll be out of town. And then for everything else, it's at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. We have a link tree in our bio. It literally takes you to all of our socials. We would really appreciate you guys following, and thank you for getting us to 10K on TikTok. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.